Okay, welcome to this training and overview of Apex order print clusters. My name is John Skelton with apexinvesting.com. I'm going to talk to you today about order print clusters and how they can be used with any system. No matter if you're trading an Apex system or a non-Apex system, order print is the key and the solution to most of your problems with any system. Let me just show you here a little bit. We're going to focus today on order prints, but we're going to focus on order print clusters. Now, what is order prints? Well, we have a whole complete training course, step-by-step videos on order prints. Basically, order prints allows you to see inside of the bars, not just the bar itself and the open and close, but what's going on inside the bar. Okay, at each and every price point, the number of bought contracts, sold contracts, and all the information to give you kind of a magnifying glass view of what's going on inside the bar. All right. Now, as you can kind of see here in this screenshot, you'll notice, see this kind of gray outlines and gray here. Okay, let me just show you one more here. This is what we call the point of control bar. All right, you can see them a little better in this screenshot because I changed the colors, and I'm going to show you how to do that here. But you see this gray box and this gray level here in each one. That is called the POC, or point of control, within that bar. And what that means, and you'll see it on every single bar here, what that means is that in that particular bar, each of those different price points, that particular price point right there, okay, that it has the gray outline, or the gray shade, I should say, that price point was the price point that had the most volume within that bar. Okay, there were buys and sell orders at all these different levels within the bar, but the point of control is that bar right there. That price level had the most action there in that bar. Now, notice on some of these bars here, you don't see that gray shade. What you see is purple. Okay, and notice you see it here too, and down here. Okay, that's what we call clusters. All right, Apex order prints is programmed to show you clusters. All right, and the clusters show up that way, marked in purple. What is a cluster? Well, basically, I don't want to bore you with all the back end programming and algorithms and the math behind it, but in a nutshell, a cluster will show up when the point of control of that bar, okay, and the price level above it and below it. Basically, you have your point of control plus the prices above and below it in that bar are X number of times the point of control and price above and below it the last X number of bars, as it were. Okay, so it's a little bit different than just saying, oh well, okay, well, what if we just have volume on here? Well, it'll show more volume in that bar. Well, what if you have a slow market and you're using these particular diagnostic type bars here where they're not time based, they're based on price movement, and price could just stay within a certain range for hours and hours and volume build up. That doesn't necessarily, just because it might be a high volume bar, doesn't necessarily mean there was a high volume right there on the point of control. Okay, and what this shows you here is the point of control. The highest volume price level of this bar is X times more of that of the last bar. All right, and clusters are very, very important to show you that something is going on. All right, even just looking at this screenshot I have here, if you could see off to the left, the market had come down and kind of messed around a little bit and then pulled back a little here with a cluster and took off. Up here it came up, and as you notice the clusters here, you see a reversal. Here you see you see a reversal. All right, just in a quick screenshot here, you can kind of see the power of these, and I'm going to explain to you a little bit more about clusters and what they are and how to use them with any system you trade. Okay, now real quick, let's just talk about some of the settings. If you go through the step-by-step training course on order prints, you'll understand how to add it to an Apex chart and some of the general settings. But as far as clusters themselves, okay, if you go into the indicator settings here, all right, and you go into institutional order prints, I want to show you a couple things here. You'll be able to find clusters right here. Okay, big volume clusters. All right, and for now there's a few different settings in here, and this one right here says show this box. Okay, we're going to talk about this in upcoming training. Actually, I'm going to kind of break up the cluster training here. So we're going to have this set to false. Okay, and then right down here you'll notice in order prints you can have display options. You can show any of the different aspects of order prints that you want. Okay, but you also now have alerts. All right, and these are audio alerts, and depending on which features of order prints you use, you can have audio alerts on or off. Right here, big volume clusters to true. I always have those on no matter what system I'm trading. In fact, I normally will not trade without a cluster, whether it be on the bar I'm entering or in a previous recent bar. Okay, that's how powerful they are. Just for me personally, in my personal trading, I mainly trade around clusters. And what's nice about that, and I'll show you this here in a moment, when those cluster bars hit, okay, they do kind of take a while to form. So you've got a little time after you get an audio alert. All right, now if we go back up here to, I'm just going to kind of go through this real quick. Right here, big volume clusters. You notice the color right here, I have it as purple. Okay, so it stands out pretty good. You can change it to whatever color you want, but it's going to be defaulted for you as purple. Okay, so that right there will give you an idea of how you can kind of customize some of the settings, colors, and audio alerts. Okay, so having the clusters and having the audio alerts gives you a great heads up that something is happening in the market or about to happen. All right, a lot of times when those clusters happen, again, there's got to be several times the volume at that point of control than there has been in the last multiple bars back. So there's a lot of volume building up on that bar. Okay, now that could mean that it's building volume to keep taking off in the same direction. It can mean that there's volume building there to reverse, or it could be at the end of a big trend, it's that last push in the trend, right? We've all seen that, right? A big trend up or a big trend down. Let's say the market's shooting way down, and when you get kind of way down there to the end, like you have this big push of volume right at the end, and then it's just done. It's exhausted. It's that last little sprint to win the marathon, and then it's exhausted, right? And the market just phases out, or maybe the market reverses. So I'm not saying that every single cluster is a trade, all right, but it's a good heads up to start looking at your surroundings. All right, hey, I got a cluster, I got an audio alert. Let me start looking. What's going on? Are we at a level? Are we at a strong level, a deviation level, settlement level, whatever it may be? Okay, it doesn't matter if you trade an Apex system or you trade any other system. Order prints is not a system. Okay, it's an add-on as a confirmation to any system and as a magnifying glass to look inside the bars, look inside the market, and see what's going on. It can help you with entry confirmations, exits, tightening stops. It helps you to know what to do at levels, right? If we're trading levels, is the market going to reverse at those levels? Is it going to break through those levels? What's it going to do? And order prints, and particularly clusters, really help you to identify that. Okay, maybe you like to trade chop breaks, or you're a swing trader, or you're looking to understand, hey, is this a trend? With that volume building, is it a trend continuation? Is there a reversal kind of coming up in sight? So anyway, back test these a little bit, and see how they help you with confirmation on your particular strategy or system. Do some market replay on them. No matter what strategy or system you trade, Apex or not, they're very powerful. So take a look at them, do some back testing on them. And I'll point out to you here in some of these screenshots I'm about to show you how when you have a bar that has a cluster and an MM, which is a mini magnet, those are very powerful. Okay, let's go through a couple of examples here. Again, I've pulled up a couple of different charts here, a couple of different Apex charts, some other charts. Again, you'll get the idea here. It doesn't matter if you trade with an Apex chart. It doesn't matter if you trade with an Apex system. Okay, maybe you're not. Maybe you are with Apex and you're trading I zones or deviation or settlement levels, whatever it may be. That's fine. Let's say you're trading something else. You're a Fibonacci trader, you're a support and resistance trader, or you're trading high and lows of yesterday or today. Doesn't matter. These things are great. So if we look at the chart on the left, I've got them kind of side by side here. I've got an order prints chart, and over here I have what's called an Apex C's chart with several different indicators on it. I've got our VAD, our VADs, which are the volume accumulation distribution, just kind of shows the volume level in a trend. It's not necessarily each bar, but it's the trend accumulation. But let's just take a look here. We see here on the order prints chart that the market popped up here, and then on this down close bar, what do we have in this down close bar? Well, we've got a lightning bolt here, which shows acceleration down. All right, we have a cluster. But what do we also have? Remember I talked about mini magnets? All right, that's what's right here. You see this yellow line is showing right here where, the top of the bar here actually had 8 and 40 left up there. One of the sides was not a 0, so it created a mini magnet. That means orders were left up there, unfinished business. The market closed, the bar closed down with volume. You've got the yellow here, which is showing trapped orders up there that were just left behind, and you've got a cluster with this down close bar. On the next bar, you even have another cluster with a down close, double bolts, and right here, momentum star. But what I want to show you is this. Look at the other chart, okay, where I have all the other indicators at. What did the market do here? It came from settlement, went all the way up here, and what did it bounce right off of here? Right? Bounced off a half deviation level and like a higher or high of the day. And what did it do? When it bounced right off that level, left a mini magnet right there, closed down with some volume and a cluster, and the market went on down. You see that? So pay attention to these at levels. All right, when the market's coming up to a level, what's it going to do? It's going to go through it. It's going to bounce off of it. You've got a great example right there of it coming right to the level and closing down with a cluster. You got an even second confirmation with the next bar closing down with a cluster and double bolts and momentum. You see that? And leading volume down here. Okay, good indication that market's going to go on down for a bit, and it did, right? From here to here, you got a good what? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 40 ticks, right? 40 pips on the Russell. Not too bad at all. Bouncing right off of level. So no matter what level it is, any strong level, deviation, settlement, I-zones, support and resistance, swing levels, high or low, Fibonacci's, really take a look at these as far as bouncing off levels. If you're a level trader, it doesn't matter what charting system or strategy you're using, being able to see those clusters there, knowing that something's going to happen there. Not that the market's just going to kind of tweeter there or maybe it's going to do whatever. When that bar closes the other way with some volume down in a cluster, or the volume up in a cluster, a really good indication there. So take a look at those. Okay. Now here's another example where even if it's not bouncing right off the level to the tick, right here the market's coming down. Now it is getting to some of these levels here, as you see. All right, settlements right here. We've got a couple other levels here, and the market turns around. And what does it do right here? As the market's coming down, you've got a little cluster here. All right, what is that showing you as it's coming down, 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 and a last little cluster? Then the market closes up with a cluster, leaving a mini magnet here. Pretty good indication it's going the other way, right? But if you're not certain on this particular example here, because you're like, well, I believe it's going to reverse there because everything's telling me it is, but we're right at some levels here. I want to wait for a second confirmation. Well, look what happens. The bar closes up here with a cluster. And then a couple bars later, what do we have here? We have a little pullback, right? We have a pullback down into these levels, down into the 50 EMA, down back towards these levels. It closes back up. And what does this bar close up with? A acceleration bolt going up, and what? Another cluster saying, hey, we played around here for a minute. We bounced off of here. We pulled back. We're headed up, 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 up. Nice run up, right? Okay. So take a look at those, and you'll also see here, not only was that a good indication bouncing off that level, but if you're like, well, there's quite a few levels right in here, the market may kind of hit you around a little bit. I want to wait and see. You wait for one more pullback and let it go. Okay, and that pullback bar that closed up had a cluster. Let's take a look at another example. All right, here I've got this called a touchback to chop or swing. You see the market kind of coming down here, and then we just start to chop, right? And this was the swing level right here. Well, as the market gets to right here, it's coming through this swing level. Right here, it breaks the swing level. You see that? And then what does it do? On this bar here, it's like, wait a minute, wait, we want to go back up here. We want to go back up here and touch this level. We want to go back up into that swing area, into that chop area. Wait a minute. Are we going down? Are we coming up? Right? How many of us have tried to trade chop breakouts or trade swing breaks and it was a fake break, right? You're like, oh, there it goes. It's going short. And I get in and up, it hits me, goes the other way. Well, check out what happens here. You've got that swing level, you've got this chop level, it breaks through it, and then it hesitates and it pulls back. And then when this bar closes back down, what happens? The market takes off down, right? You have a nice run there. Well, look at this bar right here. Okay, let's take a look at this bar. What is this bar telling us right here? Well, we've got a mini magnet right here, we've got some double bolts, and we've got a cluster, right? Is it going to break out of this swing level? It's going to pull back up and test it, create a cluster, and shoot on down. See that? So it's great for not just at regular, support and resistance type deviation strong levels, but great for swing levels and breaking out of chop as well, utilizing the clusters. Okay. Let's take another peek here. What about this one here? I've got this titled Sling Touchback. What do we mean by sling? Well, what we mean by sling is when you see all these bars here, but you see how this bar here, it pulled back, created a wick, and then it shot back forward and closed up. Kind of like pulling back a slingshot and then letting it go. Notice as the market's coming up here, we don't have any slings right here. We don't have any sling or wick bars. And the market's making a nice move up here. It goes through this level, comes up. What does it do? Pulls back all the way to the tick to this level right here, doesn't it? And then what does it do? Well, it pulls back here all the way to the tick to that level, and then it closes up. And what does it close up with? It closes up with lightning bolt here, so acceleration, closes up with a star, momentum, closes up with leading volume, and mainly what are we talking about right here? A cluster. It's shooting on up. We went through that level. Let's pull back and test it. Let's build some speed. We're halfway up the mountain here, right? We made it up the mountain. Let's take a little break, build some energy, come back up, boom, shoot on up some more. Okay, you see that? So touching back to a level as well, testing it, building strength, building momentum, and going on. Okay. What about through a level right here? As the market's coming down, it's going through these levels, coming through settlement, kind of pulls back up, hesitates a little here at settlement, pulls right back up, hits that 50 EMA as well, breaks through settlement right here. And what's on this bar here? We've got a cluster. And it shoots on down for another 15 or 20 ticks, right? Okay, so we all wonder, what do we do at a level? Is it going to reverse? Is it going to sit around, or is it going to kind of build some steam and shoot down just a little bit more? Sometimes it might shoot down a lot, sometimes it might just shoot down a little. In this particular example, after it's shot down here, we do have a blue ice level not too far away. So what does that mean? Should we be going in for a trend trade right there? When it's breaking through one level with some good volume and a cluster, but another level is really close, we're probably just looking for a quick 10-15 scalp there, right? And you'd have got it out of that no problem. So pay attention to not only what levels is it breaking through, but how close is your next level. Okay, when you get into a trade, you always want to have some type of target in mind as well. It's breaking through this level. Where is the next point of resistance? Where is the next most likely turnaround point, right? So make sure to pay attention to those levels as well. Okay, and notice when the market came down here close to this level and then pulled back up and started to make its uptrend down here, see that? Bounced off here and pulled up. What did it bounce off with, by the way? a mini magnet, and a what? A cluster. It's coming down, 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 boom. Wait a minute. We're leaving these orders down here. We're trapping them down here. We're going to close up with a cluster and another cluster. And boom, boom, boom. We're working our way back up. You see that? Okay, so a couple different examples there on that shot there. What about those of you that trade the apex pattern, right? The A, P, and E, okay? Where we get our P and then our E, and we enter 3 ticks below the E. Okay, notice on this particular one right here, okay, there was no clusters on this one. What about this one right here? Notice the market came up, pulled down, came up, and look, even this bar right here pulled back. The market started to come up, pulled back, and it tried to shoot up with some momentum. It just couldn't go anywhere. And this P bar closed down with a what? Mini magnet and a cluster. And what did the market do? Shot down. The E, what did the E have? A star, right? For those of you that trade the apex pattern, when you see a setup like that with a mini magnet and a cluster, or even just a cluster on the P bar, and then the E closes with a momentum star, what do you think about that trade? I think I've got some pretty good, volume behind that trade. I think I've got a pretty good confirmation that I'm wanting to take that short entry and take the market south. And I'm pretty glad I did right there, huh? Absolutely. Okay. I'm going to show you the same exact screenshot here again in a minute, but for a different reason. So keep an eye on this. Remember this. Remember the setup here as the market came up, pulled down, came up a little further, pulled way down. I'm going to show you in a different aspect here in just a moment. Okay. So apex pattern there. Take a peek at that. P and E's. All right. So we understand a little more now of how important it is with the apex order print seen inside the bar, right? Not just seeing the big levels and the overall levels and the long-term levels, but what's going on in that bar. Not just did it close up or down, but did it close up with volume? Did it close up with a cluster? What about those of you that trade VAD 2.0, right? Where we're looking for VAD E to be green and we're looking for divergence in VAD A, right? So right here, for example, VAD E is green. All right, right here, we had from here to here, we had some VAD divergence. Now in this particular bar, there wasn't a cluster, but even if you took that one, nice trade. Then here you've got even more divergence, right? From here to here. And on this particular bar right here, what did we have? Mini magnet and cluster. And what did the market do? You got a nice 20, 25, well, 20 to 30, depending on where you exited out of that trade, right? Okay, so just another type of system that it can confirm when your other entries do line up and you've got a cluster. Might be a little better entry, might be a nicer entry. Maybe you normally only trade one contract, but on entries where you have a cluster or a cluster and a mini magnet, maybe those are the ones that you decide you do a little more contracts. Or if you're trading binaries, for example, and when you have everything lining up with a cluster and you're expecting maybe a little bigger move, maybe you don't only do in the money binaries, you do out of the money or at the money options, right? Or no matter what it is you trade, okay? So many different ways to utilize it. All right, notice here, recognize this screenshot? It was the one we were talking about a few minutes ago, right? Where the market came up and then it pulled down and then it came up, and we were talking about the P and the E and taking it short. Well, there's a little more to look at here. What happened right here in the market compared to right here? That's a higher high, right? But look what happened. The market came up to this point, right? And then it pulled back. And where was VAD A, our volume accumulation? The volume accumulation of the trend was way up here. Then when it made a higher high, much lower VAD, right? From here to here, much lower. Then it pulled back and went even higher, and not really much more volume. A little bit in this one bar comparatively, but overall went higher without really much more volume. And again, it tried to push up right here. That's just total divergence right there, guys. That's not just random VAD A and E divergence. That's higher high on less volume. right? Here's high, then it went even higher on less volume, then even higher on really not much more volume, with a final push up there, a pullback, sling, and a push and momentum. It just couldn't go anywhere. And then what happens here? Closes down with the mini magnet and cluster. It's done. We're exhausted. We're working our way up the mountain. Got to take a break. Getting higher up the mountain. Got to take a break. Trying to go higher, pulling back, even push and push. We're done. We're exhausted. We've got volume the other way. We're going down. Right? Nice run there. Okay. So divergence, higher high. Here's another example of it. Okay, right here that you can see a little bit better. All right, where the market's coming up and the market pulls back. The market comes up a little bit higher from here to here on a little less volume, right? You see the VAD volume up here. This is less VAD volume, but it's a higher high. Okay, divergence. And what do we have again? Cluster, mini magnet, closing down, boom. The market goes way down, right? Let's kind of really jump in and analyze this trade a little bit. I'm pretty sure that's pretty clear to see. We got a high, pull back, got a higher high, but on less volume, closes down. We've got an X showing what? Exhaustion, right? We've got, paw prints. We've got exhaustion here. We've got absorption, or I'm sorry, we've got the X with absorption. We've got trapped orders. We've got, acceleration down. We've got negative net showing us down. We've got a cluster. Every indication is showing us higher high on lower volume. We're done, like all around done. And we go short. And we've got a nice run there. No matter what you're trading, right? No matter what kind of chart this was, whether this was a Forex chart, a futures chart, a stock chart, whether you're trading futures, whether you're, trading Nadex spreads, Nadex binaries, great trade right there, right? Got an at the money binary up here. You got an out of the money binary down here. Great trade right there. Very simple to see with all these tools combined. You've got higher. And whether you're using VAD to show this higher high and this divergence, whether you're using some type of oscillator that's not an apex, again, it doesn't matter if it's apex indicators or charts or not. If you're seeing this divergence and you're seeing it line up with order prints, again, order prints is not a system. It's a confirmation. It's a tool to let you see inside the bar, see what's going on inside the market. Okay, no matter what you were using here. But you just see here, when you see that divergence, no matter which tool you're using to see it or visually seeing it, and you've got all these confirmations, again, I'm going to repeat it. You've got acceleration, you've got a much bigger bar, you've got negative net, you've got absorption, you've got paw prints, exhaustion, trapped orders, and then our baby, our cluster. We're going down, right? We're done. So what happens here? You're going short and you're coming down, and what's happening here? You're getting into a level here, right? You get into a level right here, and so what are you expecting here? Now maybe when you got in short, maybe you were targeting this level, and so you're like, hey, when it gets to that level, I'm just getting out. Like, that's all I want, that's all I'm looking for, that's all I'm expecting. Okay, fine. What if you're hoping for a bigger trend though? You're expecting when it gets down to this level here, okay, which I believe is a higher low of the day or yesterday, you're expecting either perhaps a reversal or perhaps a slowdown or some chop, but you're expecting some little hesitation in there, right? Well, how do we know what to do here? Is it just hesitating? Is it going to keep going? Should I tighten my stop? Should I exit? Should I maybe exit half my position, take a little bit of profit? What am I going to do here? Well, let's kind of follow this trade all the way through. So let's look at the next shot here. So what happens here? The market comes down, right? We get a bar close up here, okay? And let's look over here at order prints on that up close bar. We had some trapped orders there. It closed up with some double bolts. So I'm going to be looking at that going, okay, that could end up being what we call an elevator, an up and then down, and it keeps going, which it did, but it's closing up with some volume. Maybe I've got a depending on what my stop is. If I have a pretty wide stop, when I see that bar close up like that with those double bolts, I'm pulling my stop down pretty close here. I'm protecting some profit here, right? Saying, okay, I'm just going to see what happens. I'm going to give it a little bit of room to see if this next bar is going to go up too, and then I'll get out maybe. But I'm not going to just get out. I'm going to wait and see. And then what happens? The next bar closes down. And what does it do? It leaves a little bit of a mini magnet up here. And then the very next bar does what? Gives us a cluster. And it's a down close bar. And if we wanted even a little more confirmation, not that I'm saying we need it, because we got another mini magnet cluster there, the next bar goes with a what? Exactly, a star momentum. And what happens? It keeps on going. And we got a nice run here, right? Okay, so how do we keep managing this trade using order prints? Well, we're way up here, right, at this 1 deviation level, or -1 deviation level. We're a little above it actually. The market comes down, we're getting down here to 1.5, we're getting a little closer down here, closer to like the -1.7. I mean, we're getting close to an almost full deviation move, right? Almost. So we're not expecting much more of a move, are we? Once we get down into this area, we're expecting the market to kind of slow down, right? So we already know we need to start tightening some stops a little bit. Let's go to the next section here. So we see coming down right here, and right when we get down here, this bar pulls back, right? Okay, wait a minute. We're expecting to slow down pretty soon. Wait a minute. This bar starts to pull back. So what are we doing right here? Probably tighten up our stops a little bit, right? Trying to protect some profits. But this bar ends up closing down. Okay, it does end up closing down. But look at this bar. Okay, let's kind of talk about what happens at the end of a trend. This is a divergent bar. You see that orange? That means it did close as a down close bar, but there are actually more buyers in this bar than there were sellers, right? And then what happens? Kind of shoots down real quick a couple bars here. Then we get some trapped orders down here and an up close bar with some what? With a bolt. Now, right there, I probably would have already closed out my trade, right? Because I'm not expecting much more of that deviation move. And then I see a divergent bar, I see two quick push down bars, and then an up close bar with some, some trapped orders here. Now we do have one more bar that closes down, and it does close with a cluster. And then what happens? We got more trapped orders here and a mini magnet. Okay, this is just the market fighting here, pushing down a little bit more, and then it's going to turn around. So as I'm seeing this coming down in this area, I'm already expecting to tighten my stop. But when I see that divergent bar and then two pushes down, and then this bar starting to leave these orders down here, and then a cluster, I'm going to start tightening that stop. I'm going to probably take half off, take some profits, and that's how I'm going to manage that trade. Okay, so you kind of see a little bit there. I showed you different examples, but you kind of see a complete management there from start to continuation to finish, and how powerful those clusters are. Okay, I'm already kind of getting a heads up because of this divergent bar, a heads up because of this bar, but when I see another cluster and it's after a deviation move, and then I see this starting to happen, I'm getting out. I'm taking my money. Okay, or I'm tightening super close. Okay, again, notice here from settlement down to a little past 0.7, after the market's made that pretty good move, notice something in here. See all these bars in here? Do you see any bolts or double bolts or acceleration or momentum? No, the market's just kind of coming down, makes a little pullback to a level, right? And then it pushes on down some more, and you don't see any crazy momentum or anything. Then when you get down into here, you start getting some exhaustion and some momentum and a last final push, and what do you get right here? A cluster, right? Also, what are you getting as you're coming down closer? Divergent bars, where they're down close bars, but there were more buyers in that bar than sellers. A down close bar that closed down with momentum and with a push and with a cluster, but there were more buyers in that bar than seller. What do you think's happening? You've made that big move down, or that good move down there, and you're starting to see that. It's time to tighten up that stop real close because you're about done. You see that? Okay. So anyway, guys, those were several examples there that were showing you some different Apex systems. But like I said, can be used with any system, can be used with any bar type. It doesn't have to be diagnostic bars. It can be, time-based bars. It can be whatever it is that you're using, whatever system you're using, whatever levels you're using. Have it on your charts. Or have a separate chart like I just showed you there. Compare it to whatever other chart you're using. Get the audio alerts on it. Do some back testing. Do some market replay on it. The clusters are one of the most powerful aspects of order prints. And if you're not utilizing order prints, you're trading blind. If you're not, using the clusters and using the audio alerts on the clusters, you're just missing out. It's just as plain and simple as that. It's one of the best possible confirmations you can have and the best possible solution to any trading system that you can have.